Got it? Okay. All right, the January 11th, 2023 meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission is hereby called to order at 6 p.m. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission. My name is Kevin Cote, chairperson. I'll be presiding over the meeting tonight. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. The Commission is taping tonight's meeting, and it will be shown live on cable access TV and other computer application and social media platforms. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed should be made part of the record of the meeting, and an original or copy should be submitted to the committee before we will discuss that document. And documents would include anything like photos, plans, drawings, printouts, letters, and written materials. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend and give each commission member an opportunity to identify themselves for the public and the record, starting with Andy.
Andy Cox.
Judy LaFleche.
Danny Hanoush.
John Goddard.
Again, I'm Kevin Cote. These procedures we will be following during the meeting. 1, project reps will make their presentation. 2, members of the commission and our staff will ask questions. 3, we'll take questions from the general public in attendance. We only ask that you raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair, and limit your comments to 2 to 3 minutes to give everyone an opportunity to speak. All right, so intro, complete, agenda. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review the agenda, and if so, is there a motion to accept?
Move to accept the agenda.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous on the voice vote. All right. Mark, do you want to handle our organizational items right here up front, or you want to save these till after the?
Until after the hearing.
Yeah. All right. We've got some organizational items, but I'm gonna move that we push those to the end so we can deal with the people's business first. All right, public participation. I don't see anyone here, so we're going to assume that we're going to get right into our 6 o'clock. All right, and I think I have a hearing to read here for this one. Yes. All right, so this is a notice of intent, file number 3300388, 42 Pheasants Crossing. Notice is hereby given under the provisions of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, January 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. regarding a notice of intent submitted by Fleetwood Environmental Solutions, LLC, on behalf of Rayford Pellegrino for drainage improvement work serving existing lawn, driveway, and other landscape areas of property located at 42 Pheasants Crossing, Assessor's Map 055, Block 007, Lot 002, located within 100 foot of buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland and other wetland resource areas. Additional work to restore disturbed bordering vegetated wetland will take place in response to an enforcement order by the Conservation Commission. In addition to this notice in the West Springfield Record, it will be posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website, and the meeting will be held here in the Justin Morgan Auditorium. And I believe we have someone here to speak on behalf of the project. If you would.
I'm Mary. I'm just here to represent Rayford.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I gather this one doesn't need too much of an introduction because the commission has had a fair
Yeah, but,
amount of
just do
recent
a
history.
little
Okay.
overview because there may be people at home watching it.
Oh, okay.
Millions of viewers.
So this is being
No
recorded
doubt.
right now? This is live?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
Yes,
live.
as I mentioned, it's
Sorry, I was-
on cable access TV and a couple of
Okay.
social media. So yeah, if you could, your name and information for the record, and then just give us a quick rundown of what's going on.
Sure. My name's David Cameron. I'm a wetlands and ecological consultant with Fleetwood Environmental Solutions. I was retained by Mr. Pellegrino, the property owner for this project, to respond to an enforcement order that the commission issued on October 26, 2022, related to the start of a curtain drain construction project. And as I understand it, when the commission conducted, or the commission's agent conducted a site inspection, discovered a few piles of yard waste at the edge of a wetland on the property. And so this notice of intent that's being submitted, or that has been submitted, is seeking approval of 2 distinct activities. The enforcement order actually required the submittal of the notice of intent for the proposed drainage improvements, and we figured that proposing wetland restoration for the select areas of yard waste and brush that are in the edge of the wetland, we could wrap it all into one filing. And so that's essentially what's proposed.
Okay. Mark, did you have a
Nope,
que-
I was, the only other thing, there were piles on the driveway, but a lot of, like, some of the stuff, there was, the trench was open, we let them close it, the commission did, and the piles were.
Okay.
Yeah, when last we were up,
Right, right.
so we had, there were a couple of ideas, proposals, plans, we looked at a couple drawings. It'd be good to just, I don't know if you have anything to, or if it's referenced in the pack, I can pass it around. If there's a page number you can
Yeah,
refer me to, but I'd like to just give everybody the visual of what
Is-
we exactly are doing
Do you
here.
happen to have
Yeah,
a
let me
PDF
find
of the
it here.
document? Because that might
Yeah,
be
I
the
have
easiest
it.
way to do it.
I just have to bring it up.
So Appendix B has the figure that depicts the proposed work.
Yeah, I might have it in enforcement, I don't know if it's in the, let me just look at, see if it's in the order. Oh, the notice is here. So is it in the notice?
It is.
The drawing.
Yep.
Okay.
It should be, it's scanned as a single document.
Oh, that's the DEP, sorry. That's the file number. Here's the file.
Yeah, figure 2 is the drainage improvement site plan, and figure 3 is the drainage improvement details.
Correct.
There we go.
You got 100,
Too many things open here?
well, no, there's quite a few pages on there, though.
Yeah, so maybe taking a little time to,
Yeah, that tab right there, drainage work, don't delete it.
this one.
3300388 is the one we're on.
Yeah, there it is. All right.
And now just zoom out from 148% to like 100% or
Oh,
something like
yes,
that.
yes, thank you.
And maybe go down a few pages. I'm gonna guess that there's more content lower down.
There's 72 pages for some reason, it's not.
Yeah, they scanned, it scanned both sides, including blanks. I apologize for that. So it's twice as long as it actually is. One of
Yeah,
my
like-
biggest criticisms of all time is make it short and sweet, and I broke my own rule, so.
Yeah, it's after all, I'm not seeing anything.
It's about
in the middle,
partway
though.
through.
I'm not seeing anything either. I got it in an email from Rayford, though, I can probably
You might have to stop and let it just,
just let it come up.
yeah, it's weird. I mean, that is the document.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me reopen it. I'm just gonna close it and reopen it. All right.
The figures we created are only 8.5 by 11, so I didn't have the ability to blow it up.
Yeah, that's,
There we
there we
go.
go.
All right.
All right, now drop yourself down to the appendices. It's almost a,
Oh, it's in the back?
yeah,
It's about halfway through, Mark.
All right.
there you,
Oop.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right,
All right, so you back it out, and then everybody can get a look.
all right. All right, is that good?
Yeah.
Or do you
So
want more?
my first question is, how much of this work's already done?
The Trent, I'll wait till Mark starts.
No more
Oh,
scrolling,
sorry,
Mark.
no
Back
more
to where you were.
Back to where you were. Well, he said he didn't.
Are you able to rotate that 90 degrees
I should be able
clockwise?
to, yeah, let's see,
That might help.
you,
Top of the, over, to the right,
no, rotate.
too far.
Oh, yeah,
Underneath
rotate,
advanced
yeah.
processing, there you go.
You want clockwise,
Bingo.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go, beautiful.
So to answer your question, Mr., is it Cote?
Cote.
Cote. What's completed is the long trench that is that starts closest to Pheasants Crossing and heads southwest to where it takes that almost 90-degree bend towards the pond. And that 90-degree bend is constructed too. I believe all of that is done. The other trench that comes down to the northern, excuse me, portion of the pond has not been constructed. The 3 trenches that are proposed to cross beneath the driveway and discharge to that circular BVW up on the northeast have also not been completed. So, yeah.
Okay, so that drain is in, it's 2 by 2 with the crushed stone, the perforated pipe and the sock, and that's all in and been backfilled in.
As I understand it.
Okay.
The first time I was at the site, the work had already been done, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I was there today, and the piece that's right under the P of Pheasants has got water in the trench, but it's filled. And then there's water on the driveway, roughly where we thought there was an under drain, but never could figure out if it was there.
Okay. What about the drains that cut across the driveway? There's 3 towards Pheasants, and there's 2 back near the pond.
The 3 that are shown crossing the driveway right there have not been constructed.
Got it.
The other one that comes into the northern end of the pond has also not been constructed.
And describe for me what the dash dot line represents here.
Which one?
The
It
one,
says BVW. and a circle.
BVW, and I got dash dot dot dash dot dot kind of.
Over on the right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a man-made ditch that's at that periphery of the property. That's, as far as I get, looking at historic aerials, it looks like it's been there since at least the development was constructed, perhaps before then.
Okay. And does,
Probably before, because in the past orders, when they built it, Stinson had said, oh, you can't, they couldn't fill in that, and they couldn't cut the trees down, but all the neighbors have done that. It might have been a wetland at the time, but some of it doesn't even look like it has qualities as a wetland. That's all
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't really understand. I don't know the history of it.
No,
It's clearly been there for a long time, though.
and does that all drain towards that BVW that's circled there?
No,
So that trench is carrying water away.
that trench to the east that heads off to the southeast carries water to the large wetland that it's not shown on this figure. To the south, which is a headwater BVW to Bag Brook. And within, it's a good-sized wetland. And you can't see it on this aerial image, but, roughly in the center of that wetland is an historic farm pond. I don't think you can see it on this one.
I think it might-
If you go back in
I can-
time, you can.
I can go back in time.
And that pond has a man-made trench leaving it that heads off roughly to the east to the southwestern end of Vincent Drive, and that's, at least based on aerial imagery, looks like where the beginning of Bag Brook is. So this entire site eventually drains to Bag Brook, well, ultimately to the Connecticut River, but yeah, there's that pond, and you can see the ditch coming out of it.
Yeah, and Bag Brook kind of starts right in between Vincent and the cul-de-sac there for,
Yeah, this is 2001.
Yeah.
this one is, okay.
So that was right around during, things are still in
like,
construction
house
in this
is what,
image.
99, 98?
One of the concerns I have is all that water appears to be getting pushed towards the corner of, I don't know what number that is, 44 Pheasants or, but that house right at that corner where that BVW was, that circle
one?
was.
Oh, up
Yeah, if you go back to the PDF,
52?
yeah, 52, it was all, everything's getting pushed there, and my, question is, so where does it go from there? So, do we believe that will then flow through the trench eventually and feed into the brook?
Maybe if Mark could move the
Where do you want?
image so that we see more of this south of that,
Oh,
other
yeah.
direction? Yeah.
Down to here, down towards the pond?
Yeah, could you keep going up, Mark? Wait,
Yeah, sorry.
that's all right.
So where this trench is down here, where the,
Yeah, so I did not bushwhack way out to that pond and that ditch. I have no idea what the shape of that is. That is clearly, obviously, it's a man-made feature. I assume it was put in years ago to facilitate drainage of the farm fields and get it over to Bag Brook. So I don't anticipate that really anything's going to change with that.
I just want to make sure 52 doesn't wind up with a soaking wet basement.
I can understand the concern. So the amount of water that's flowing through the catchment isn't going to change. It's just, this is hard to explain without drawing it. I usually have a dry erase board with me.
we don't have.
The intent is to take, and it's very difficult without doing a million soil borings and throughout where the trench is. And there are multiple mapped soils in this area, but they're all presumably excessively well-drained or well-drained up near where the trenches are. So I can't, this is a fairly odd site to me, actually, seems to be from a superficial geology perspective. It seems significantly wetter than you would expect it to be, and my hypothesis is that that wetness is largely a function of all the development that's happened in the immediate catchment. And I think that this happens to be the biggest property, so it's got the most open space left. It's at the bottom of a hill, and I think during rain events and other periods of the year, especially this time of year when plant uptake of water isn't happening, much of the lower parts of the property turn into basically a giant sponge. And so the idea is with a curtain drain to catch the shallow groundwater that's coming down the hill, that's heading roughly north to south, and catch it. During high events, it would presumably go into the pipes and discharge quickly to the pond. The pond is representing really the high groundwater table at that elevation. Again, I haven't observed the site. I haven't had the luxury of observing the site in different seasons over multiple years, but it's hard for me to imagine, and I didn't see any signs that there's any surface outlet from that pond. It has a substantial amount of storage capacity, at least based on what I've seen. So I don't anticipate that things are going to change at the properties downstream, because the amount of water being generated is not going to change. It's just a matter of redirecting it within this one parcel.
But the speed at which it gets there.
During certain storm events, yes, it's going to get from point A, meaning that trench at the top, to the pond quicker, and it'll get underneath the driveway quicker to that BVW in that trench.
So which pond are you saying that you don't know there's an outlet? Is it the one behind the house or
Yeah,
the one in the bottom?
yeah, there's no.
Oh, there's a drawing that there's an outlet on the south side of that pond.
Is it a culvert?
Yeah, it's a little, probably a 4-inch,
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
yeah. It's on some plans I've seen.
Is it, so that sets the elevation of the pond? Okay.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, yeah.
And where does that just discharges out into the wetlands behind?
Discharges to the wetlands behind. Clearly, this pond that's behind the house is man-made. It wasn't, for example, I'll show you in an older, go
Take
way
us back in time again,
Yeah, I'll take it way back.
going to 1950?
Yeah, basically.
I wanted to see that one, I saw it
You
up
did?
there. It sparked my
Alright.
interest, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
so there's 1950, and the houses are, on there, even though it's not there. So the only pond that really exists is the one on the south side. But it doesn't tell you a lot. I mean, there's an old roadway system in there, it was a farm. I did read in a file that when they built this, somehow there was a drain coming off of like where the water tank comes from. So what is that, Golden View? And somebody moved it, but I don't know where they moved it from or to. It just says, there's a note that says, they moved the pipe. Where they moved it, it could have been to this trench, I don't know.
Well, back to the matter at hand. I think what you're telling us is that this, this water's already flowing towards these low points, the pond, the man-made pond in the back, or this, what we think that was a farm pond or something, the one that's further down that you could see in 1950.
Right, everything's moving roughly from north to south. That's correct. Whether through surface flow or groundwater flow.
And eventually to the brook. So
Right.
we don't anticipate that's going to change. And when this pipe is functioning, so is it the case that this trench, the elevation is higher towards Pheasants than it is down towards the pond? Is it designed to?
The man-made trench?
Yes, the man-made trench that just went in.
Oh, I just want to make sure we're talking about the precise same
Yeah, like
feature.
where's water going to flow when it hits this pipe that was put in? Is it
Okay,
designed to flow
so, yeah,
down
part
toward
of
the
it,
pond?
There's actually kind of a sub-watershed break. I don't know, it's maybe, if you start at Pheasants Crossing and you're walking on top of the trench that's there now, there's a watershed divide, I'd call it a subcatchment, so a sub-watershed divide, somewhere probably to the north of, and maybe Mark, correct me if you think I'm missing anything here. I would say it's a little bit to the north of number 26. That's the house on the other side of the cul-de-sac, right?
On the other side of the road.
So it's roughly, I mean,
Yes.
it's fairly level as you head from Pheasants Crossing toward number 26, and then it gradually rises up, and then as you head southwest of number 26, there's a fairly steep slope coming down towards the pond. So,
Got it. So what that tells me is everything from number 26, the house itself, and Pheasants, is going to funnel in towards the BVW up here, and everything from here down is going to hit the pond.
roughly, yes, that's a good way of explaining it. What year is this, Mark?
This is 97.
Okay, so that's right before, shortly before
the house
construction.
was built,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when all this surface runoff hits now, if it doesn't soak into the ground, some of it's going to sheet flow over that driveway area down in this direction. All this is now getting concentrated towards that BVW, and hopefully the trench / swale / intermittent stream picks it up and gets it out of there.
Yeah, so so I think, if I understand the design, sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead.
No, that's all right, he's gonna recognize me anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm talking to you
He's
still.
talking to you, so.
So I think, if I understand the design correctly, and I think I do, so the way this is going to work is dependent on a number of different factors. It's dependent on slope, it's dependent upon the soil's textures in very precise locations, and it's dependent upon where the groundwater happens to be during any storm event. So I think if the groundwater table, is, I'm guessing the curtain drain, when it was constructed on that far at the northern edge of the property, probably broke through any restrictive layer that was near the surface, I'm guessing. So it's filled with crushed stone, and I'm guessing that crushed stone goes down to sand and gravel. So as long as there's not groundwater in that trench, in that location, water should hit that curtain drain and go down and recharge the groundwater. If that groundwater comes up in the trench due to, say, we get a week straight of rain, and the groundwater comes up, obviously it's not going to continue to recharge the groundwater. It's going to hit those pipes, and it's going to go into the pond or the other BVW. So I think that's how it's going to function. My guess is the pipes are not going to be conveying water unless it's during a storm event and the groundwater table's already high and the trench hasn't broken through I think there are restrictive layers here and there in the soil. There are 3 or 4 different soils mapped there. Most of them are well drained. One of them, I think Sudbury, has both moderately well drained and somewhat poorly drained characteristics, so it depends on precisely where you are in terms of what you're going to get. But that's the concept in terms of how this is supposed to work.
All right, commissioners, who else has questions? John?
Mr. Cameron, you mentioned restoration of some altered BVW. Is that at both locations? And pardon me, as Mark has the ability to flip pages, but if you could just describe where those are, and are we just looking at straight restoration of what's been altered, or any further detail that we might need to know about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if Mark is able to pull the NOI back up and just scroll down, I think 2 figures? I think to figure 4 depicts where those areas are. I think there were 7 different locations. Yep. So maybe if you could rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees. There you go. So each one of those triangles represents one of the locations, and they vary in size. It's grass clippings or combination of grass clippings, leaves that were collected from the yard, and in some cases, brush. It looks like branches that were pruned, lower branches on some of the trees or on the property, I'm guessing, I don't know. They range in size from, maybe this table to, there's one fairly large area that's probably, I think I said it was about 20 by 25 feet, and that one's probably going to require more than just handwork. That's going to require a bobcat or something. And I think I totaled it up, and it came to just under 1,600 square feet if you add them all together.
I think I have some photos.
This is the trees, Mark, you got photos of?
I have photos of the dumping, yeah. Not as many as Dave has. Thanks, Dave. So here, like this one here, there's some piles of grass. I think that's a contribution from the neighbors. I don't even think that's from Ray.
Yeah, that one would be number,
3, I think. Maybe.
yeah, that's 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You're right.
Where's the one by the shed? This is the one by the shed in the back, very shed. That's more substantial.
Yeah, that one is I think that's number 6.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And then to the south of the shed, it looks like stuff that's been there a long, long time. I mean, potentially before the development. It almost looks like somebody had an ATV crossing out there with plywood and timbers, but it's really, really old. I mean, it's partially grown over with vegetation. So it may be historic and not actually something that the current property owner had anything to do with. That would be my guess.
John, did that answer your questions?
Yes, helpful to understand it's associated with, we call that larger area of BVW as opposed to the 2 points of discharge that we're looking, rather I should say, 2 areas that would be receiving the stormwater discharge.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right, Mark.
All right, so my concern is only on the stuff that runs behind 52 and 64 and 76. So in the original order, when Mr. Lavalette built the house and the subdivision, those houses at 52, 64 all had in their deeds or in the order pertaining to their construction that they weren't to alter the swale, but they all did. Some of them filled it in. So the question is, I think behind 52 is still there, but I don't know if it exists anymore behind 64, 76, and 88.
The trench?
The trench,
Yeah, I walked the entire length of it. It looked, well,
it's there?
I kind of meandered back and forth, but I did walk from the top of it, where that BVW is, all the way down the property line, and as far as I could see, was all intact. I think I even have a photo of it.
Yeah, it just doesn't, it's not vegetated anymore, as far as I know. And
No.
some of the clearing by the neighbors and lawn is actually on Mr. Pellegrino's property, not even on their own property.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the trench
This
goes
is-
through
yeah.
52, cuts a corner on 64, and it's out. By the time you get to 76, that trench is outside of their property line. So if they're mucking around back there, they're working on his property.
Probably. I mean, this isn't survey quality, but, so if you look at, so this is a 98, first time it's color. All right, so then if we look at more recent in the spring, get rid of this. Sorry. So this is 18. The trench is clearer at 52, but once you get past those willows at 76, it kind of gets lost in somebody's lawn.
I know this is not necessarily our purview, but if those folks have mucked around with that trench and it's in their what, their deeds, they're not supposed to touch it?
Yeah, no, it's something that I was going to ask the commission, how do you want to handle it? This is old. We probably should do enforcements on that as well. But the question is, so,
So at the end of the day, right, like if 52's basement floods, because that thing's not clear, all those people are in a world of hurt.
I'd be surprised if there's not water in the basements of a lot of those houses already, honestly.
I mean, they
because
probably all
th-
have
th-
some pumps.
This is.
yeah, it
so-
would have been helpful if they came, so that we could.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their future problem. We do what we can to mitigate it, but if they've messed with something they're not supposed to touch that drains water, and there's a future water problem, I mean, I'm just looking out for the town, because that's who we represent up here. So when this auditorium's full of people from Pheasants Crossing with water in their basements, I'm gonna go say, hey, if that trench isn't clear and someone filled it in, take your pitchforks right there.
I'm just going to try, I know I took a photo of that trench while I was out there. I want to see how much,
I did too.
what
I
length
think.
of it
Let me see what I have.
I captured.
Because if water doesn't move freely down that trench to where it needs to get to that pond, to that trench that connects into Bag Brook, that's where you'll have a problem. And it sounds like the only time this should ever be any sort of an issue would be if we had some type of major storm event, lots of water. Otherwise, those pipes aren't going to push to the BVW across the driveway. So, you know, the risk is probably minimal based on the design and how we believe it'll operate.
So this is my pictures of the trench. Right?
Well, a bridge.
Yeah, so,
The bridge wasn't supposed to be there. I don't
so
know.
is that,
That's all supposed to be vegetated, none of this stuff was supposed
Who's got the bridge? What number?
That's
so
52.
that's facing,
That's
that's
52?
facing southeast, Mark? Is that facing southeast?
That's facing north, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, this may be facing south, yes, this may be, because this is a house on the left.
All right,
yes.
well, if the bridge blocks up the drain and 52 comes to complain, then
Oh, I found it.
I got nothing to do for you.
And then, so this is looking north, so the last of the vestigial vegetation that's wetland is next to Rafer's driveway.
Yeah, that's the head of it, correct?
That's the head.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep. And
That's
I've got a photo downstream of the bridge, and it's, right, if the commission wants to see it, and it's completely open.
Yeah, but open as lawn, not as vegetated wetland.
Oh, no, it's not
Well,
vegetated.
hold on, what happened to the trench
But it-
here?
The trench disappeared here.
Where's
This
that?
is behind 76, I think. Clearly, they filled it in.
Uh-huh.
So this is a problem. And then it's kind of non-existent in this area.
Okay.
This guy's got a garden in the middle of it. And,
So here's is that all their leaf clippings?
Yeah, so it was a
Just
garden, I think.
compost, people,
It's
for
a
God's
garden, I
sakes.
think. I think the trench is actually on the other side of this, and so he's clearly either on Rafer's property, sorry, Mr. Pellegrino's property, or,
Well, I mean, we're not here to
Very
advise
generous
Mr.
man.
Pellegrino, but if I was Mr. Pellegrino, I'd be a little concerned if that trench got filled in on my property, because nobody should be on your property, and they shouldn't be doing work on your property. And if that ends up causing a problem, you know, that's, I guess, I don't know, Mark, like, do we issue enforcement to all these folks
Well,
and say, you
right,
better
that's
make
what
that
we
trench
gotta
back
do.
to the way
So-
it's supposed to be, because if you don't,
right, so this is that garden you just saw, and the trench is either, I think, to the right of it. But as you can see, the trench is hard to find anymore.
And that's facing north,
That's facing north.
right?
So I was gonna ask the commission, do we do enforcement? I can show you it was in the order for when they built those properties, that all of them would not touch the trees, they wouldn't cut the trees, they've all cut the trees, they've all created lawn in the area. So, but I think things have changed substantially in the time between the subdivision and now, and I was wondering if there's benefit if you issue an order on this and allow, is that the end, at the time of coming in for certificate of compliance, asking Mr. Pellegrino to have a full wetland delineation done, because I think things have changed, hydrology-wise. So the question is this really a functioning wetland or not? But you're gonna be putting water, so the wonder do you bring the pipes further down?
I'll give you if you're asking my opinion, I'll give you my
Yeah.
2 cents on what's going on here. I think what we're looking at is effectively a 25-lot subdivision that didn't have to go through the stormwater management standards because they were all developed as A&R lots. And so
Well, they
now,
didn't have stormwater standards.
well, they were 1997 to 2003, so didn't they come in?
Policy.
Policy in 96? So, right.
Nobody followed it.
Right. So I think that explains what's going on. That you've got a 25-lot subdivision, even though, you know, they were A&R lots perhaps, and they were all built in a very short period of time, roughly a 6-year period, 1997 to 2003. There's roads, there's roofs, there's driveways, there's roofs for sheds, there's patios and decks, and now Mr. Pellegrino's property is right smack in the middle of all of them at the bottom of the hill, and much of his property is turned into a giant sponge.
Well, some
That's-
of it was, I think, but I think.
To the south, for sure, that was already
Yeah.
wetland.
And then I think, to your point, is that the water is discharged quicker to Bag Brook, that's all.
In the past,
No, now. I think it's because they altered everything.
I
well,
wonder.
how much different would that be if that trench was functioning?
Yeah, I wonder how quickly stuff actually gets to Bag Brook between something like this and also that, the historic trench that comes out of that farm pond clearly hasn't been maintained in, 30 or 40 years, so it's probably blocked up and not conveying flow at all.
Are you guys open to a site walk out there? Because it might be better to see it.
I mean, now that I've seen the plan and we've talked it through, and this is just my opinion, we're still open for debate here, so weigh in, commissioners. I feel better that this plan is not going to have a major impact on anyone, and frankly, if it does, then
Their own fault.
that trench shouldn't be what it is. And if all those neighbors have encroached and decided they like to have a little bit more lawn at the expense of 42 pheasants, that's
Right.
not okay. That's not our problem, though. Like, if this doesn't work, it's not because this was not a good design and this doesn't account for flows and other things. If this thing fails, it's going to be because that trench is blocked up in a way that it shouldn't be, and water can't get out of there.
So the question is, should you bring the water, that piping all the further down rather than dump it into the swale that's non-existent?
I mean, by rights, that's not his problem. He didn't fill a swale in.
No, and I would say that it's actually filled in on his property, so it is still his problem.
Yeah,
But
to
they
some
didn't-
extent.
He didn't fill it in. They filled it in.
Well, I mean, the commission could always condition an order of conditions to allow him to resurrect that trench too. You've got the opportunity to do that
Well,
right
that's a
now.
thought too. Is he open to that?
I think you could give it, if you wanted to condition it as an option, he could decide whether or not he wants to do that or not.
Right, I mean, I don't love speaking for him, but yes, I mean, the goal.
Yeah, it's his property. Yeah.
Right, the goal is to move this project forward and, you know, appease all parties involved, that's the goal. So, you know, I know that Rafer's really reasonable in that sense where, you know, to clear it up just on the Pheasants Run, sure, could we do that? I mean, I don't see a problem with that, I don't think he'd have a problem.
Yeah, you may want to have him talk to his, gently
That's fine
talk to his
too.
neighbors.
That's fine too.
Have
Yeah.
it as an option, then he doesn't have to do it, but
Right.
it's an option.
Right, I like the option.
Commissions?
I say we grant the option. Just makes it easier, rather
doesn't
than
have to
come
come
back
back.
and, I hate to not do it and then we immediately see an issue after they run the thing and when they could solve it amongst themselves, then come back here and open another notice of intent that they're working within a BVW. Just give them the option so that they can settle it. It's on his property,
Right.
mostly.
He probably got easement. But we're behind 52 and the other one, the swale's there. You can see it.
Yeah.
It's just not vegetated.
Right, it's really looks like a roadside gutter, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd look a lot nicer if they just let the wetland vegetation grow in.
Right. Well, yeah, well, that doesn't make nice suburbia.
I think that BVW, that looks, that tall grass looks nicer than a dirt
I agree.
patch.
Look at behind Mr.
My
Pellegrino. It's
opinion.
beautiful.
100% agree. The natural look is so much more beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm fine with it. I agree with that. There's no point if we,
Violations on them doing it, go get them.
oh, you don't have to ask him twice. All right. In relation to this, Judy, please.
Wait, the only thing I'm concerned about is how the neighbors have done different things. If Mr. Pellegrino goes and opens it up again, there's got to be some way to let the neighbors know not to do that again.
Well, we could send letters out and say, remind people that this is what was agreed to when the houses were built. So I could do that, and that's probably the easiest thing, rather than doing it, you know, like enforcement, and they're scaring the hell out of them. But remind them that this was all part of the original permitting.
Well, I think that this is a good time to, one, give the optional condition that something can be done about it. Two, send letters to notify all those residents that
That would
you're
take
not supposed to
Rafer
mess
out.
with this, and if you did, that's a no-no.
Right.
Because there's a whole conversation for Mr. Pellegrino to have with all of his neighbors to say, what the hell?
Right. Well,
Don't fill in this ditch because it's to your own detriment. Like, this water's gotta go somewhere, and if it doesn't go where it's supposed to, you know, don't complain that I redid my driveway and you filled in the drainage swale that was gonna protect your property. In addition to, don't do work on my property. So he can figure that out on his own, but if we give him the option, then they can, then that's sort of a, hey, I could do this, how do you wanna handle it, kind of thing. They can figure it out amongst themselves. I don't wanna have to get in the middle of that.
Yeah, so I'd say a letter from us saying, reminding people to those houses that that's what was agreed to, because this swale serves the people on the other side of, so if I go back to my aerial, the people up here in these two houses, 31 and 19, also discharge water into that same swale.
How does it get there? Under the road?
Goes under the road.
Does it? Okay. And so does it come into that
Yeah,
headwater?
That's why they have, so behind Mary's patio, there's a constructed wetland, and that was to compensate for this wetland on 19 and 31.
Where is the constructed
Oh.
wetland?
It's right, when they did the patio, I found it, it's right in here.
That's also beautiful. I love it.
So there's a wetland that was built because they filled in a wetland over here. And if you look at their common property line, it's all stone. That goes into a pipe, it goes under the road and then discharges here.
So Mr. Pellegrino just let them build the wetland on his property?
Well, no, this was the developer who,
Oh, the previous,
he
okay.
owned,
Okay, so that explains the abrupt boundary on that part of the wetland, Mark? Because it looks like an excavation. I was wondering what was going on there.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I think there was an old farm trench probably.
Okay.
And they took advantage of it and maybe accentuated it.
Okay, I see.
So that's a replicated wetland, and it's functioning?
It's an absolutely
Should get
functional
a, should
wetland.
get a guy out there to study it.
Theirs
We
is
didn't
functioning.
get so lucky in our high school replication. That's another topic.
No,
Well, they
but their wetland is functioning behind their house.
Okay, so I'm comfortable with that. I think we gotta give everybody a letter who's got access there, because 52 and 64 have some opportunity to like muck with it on their own property, but if 76 and 88 are doing anything, they're just out of bounds.
Right.
So I think,
And I think they're those, and some of your pile 3 isn't from, why would Mr. Pellegrino walk all the way around his swamp to dump in his,
I was wondering about the genesis of some of those piles myself, but
my
because they're on
guess
his,
is it's
because
all
they're on his
neighbors
property,
at
I just
88
identified them.
and 100 are
look, the
dumping
town
it.
picks up lawn debris several times a year. You can compost it or you can bring it down to the transfer station, but don't spread it around the wetland. I think we gotta put that in our letter too, like,
Right.
just make a pile and compost it somewhere else in your yard. It'll go into dirt. Like, you don't need to kill everything in sight. All right, I'll get off the soapbox on that. All right, I'm comfortable with that,
Okay.
and I'm comfortable with the plan. Do we have any more feedback on the plan?
Let it proceed.
So, yeah, I'm fine, if you want to close the hearing and you want to issue an order, that's fine, unless
Do we
you-
have conditions to issue?
I was going to say that we do the standard. The only question I have is this last one, is that DEP issued the number, so we're beyond the whole thing of, the policy of prior conditions, right?
The amended order, I'm sorry, the multiple orders policy.
Multiple orders policy. I mean, it's not like this is the same as those orders, it's different.
Yeah, Mark, I wasn't tasked with really doing any of that historic research on those old orders, so I can't really speak to them. I
But
mean,
I
the
think-
fact that a file number was issued kind of suggests that it's.
They didn't call it out.
And really, well, in some ways, the commission prompted the need for this order of conditions through enforcement. So
Right.
it's kind of a unique
I
situation.
guess so, coming back around to it, it's in Mr. Pellegrino's interest to resolve it, because it creates a cloud on his title. So I was wondering would he be in a position to, I think an updated wetlands delineation would do, and whether the commission would be willing to put it in, but subject to happening at the time of request for a certificate of compliance. And then we can issue the certificates on all the others.
Why do we want to get the wetlands delineated again?
Why? Because I think it's changed. I think that.
Okay, but so
it's-
what?
Well, so we have, I don't know, or at least then I want to get at least certificates of compliance on the other stuff.
Well, I think it'd be good to get certificates of compliance to close everything out.
Yeah.
I
just
mean,
think it's in his
if the
interest.
wetlands moved a little, like, part of my thought being like, well, I'm not really too worried about it. If someone's gonna go build something or do work, and we think that we need to get a new sense of it, then I would
Okay.
feel like we should push for it. But no one's building anything over there.
Okay. Well, you might get another lot, but there you go.
Yeah, and at which point, that would be a perfect time for new delineation if a new lot came in. That would be fine to do. Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Andy. You're dismissed. All right. So yeah, I don't think we need to put that in there.
Okay, but we would like to get the other orders.
Yeah, we'd like to get those resolved.
certificates issued. So at some point,
That was,
we need.
was that
to
part
do
of the enforcement order? I can't remember.
No,
No, it
was
just
that-
came up.
That it would that probably we would deal with it on the multiple orders issue.
Okay,
And DEP didn't raise it, so I'm not really pushing the issue, but I do think we need to resolve it.
right.
So I guess I stand corrected on the revised wetland delineation, although I think it's in his interest.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he wants to do it, that's great, and we can approve a new line.
Yeah, No, I hear you. So at least get the certificate, get us to be able to issue certificates of compliance.
For the
It's always
previous
good to close
orders.
your permits.
For the previous orders,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding was that Mr. Pellegrino had tasked somebody with doing that research and getting that stuff, but it's not,
No, he did, but they closed, so they didn't get it.
okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's not part of the scope I'm involved with, so I really can't speak to it. I don't know.
Same. I'm not part of the scope, I'm involved with it.
Oh, this goes
All right.
back to when you bought the house.
All right, so we are going to close this hearing unless anybody has any additional debate to raise. And then we would issue standard order of conditions for the work with a additional special condition allowing for work to restore the swale.
Right.
And I think we probably want to put something in there, Mark, that essentially says if they're going to do that work, just to check in with us so we could just make sure that whatever best management practices are being used, things like that.
Yeah,
Because we don't even know if that's going to happen or not, but we'll give them the option. That way they don't have to come back.
okay. And then,
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, and if there's an issue with any of the, I mean, we're going to use standards, so there shouldn't be any issues. But if there were, you can talk to Mark about it, and if we have to,
so the only other
Revisit
thing
we
I think
can.
I would be wanting to add is that prior to issuing a certificate of compliance on this order, we want to close out the others as well. So we need an application.
What are the other orders?
There's multiple. There's 330, 204, 207.
Do you know what they're related to?
Yeah, one was the replication, so they issued a certificate of compliance for the replication, no, not for the replication, for the lot 31 and 19 over on the other side of the street, but not on the house where they did the replication.
Okay.
So it was a partial. Then they, all the other orders don't have certificates.
The other orders.
So the order, when they built the house,
the house,
Oh, okay.
so he should have done this before he
So,
closed.
so the construction,
Raven told
because the
me-
house was built in buffer zone, it required an order of conditions, and that one hasn't been closed out?
Correct.
I see.
There's
Okay.
multiples that haven't been closed out.
but what other work was done, do we know?
The whole subdivision is a 120.
Right, but he's only responsible for 42.
Correct, but they pertain to this, so we could give him a partial on that.
I got you, so there's overlapping.
There's multiple
Just
orders.
42.
This is probably where your policy came from at DEP, because there are like 4 different or 5 different orders on the same
Yeah,
lot.
it was, that policy, the incentive was to bring people, make sure people are in compliance before doling out additional permits. That's exactly what it was for. Have you, I assume you've provided Mr. Pellegrino with a list of those file
Yeah,
numbers?
they're listed actually in his deed, but there were no certificates for
Okay.
him. He had assigned somebody in his office to look into it, and they said it was okay, but it wasn't.
Okay. I mean, feel free to email me what those file numbers
Yeah,
are,
I'll
and I
get you all
can
that
talk to Mr. Pellegrino about it.
I mean, the parts that deal with the property owners on 64 and 52, we can't do. They'd have to come in and get those. Right, get
So,
partials on theirs.
maybe you understand this, but in practical terms, if he wanted to sell his house next week, and that order that allowed the house to be constructed isn't closed out, and a savvy lawyer for the potential buyer sees it, they're gonna say, see ya. So it's actually in his best interest to.
Yeah, it's in everybody's interest to get it closed out. I can forget about it.
All right. We can add in 2 special conditions. One,
Okay.
you can work on the trench. 2, if you want a COC, you better get
And then it's
the other
just the
ones
regular
closed out.
ones that, do you want me to put anything, it's already in the deed, so.
That's it, too, he said 2.
Just those 2, so that's fine. I had started working on it last night, and I said, well, stuck because of these three things. But you solved one of my problems and gave me the direction on the other two.
All right. Is there a motion in a closed debate?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right?
Is there a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed?
I'll move to issue the order of conditions for 33003888 with the 2 special conditions as discussed.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll give the unanimous on that. All right, Mark will get you the conditions and we'll go from
And
there.
I was prepared, because I brought signature pages.
Perfect.
I went into EDP last night, got the transactions, and got it all set up, so.
All right.
So we're set to go, it's just I need to do the order.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. And then, Mark, we'll work on the letters.
Yes,
I'd like to see a draft of those before they go
all
out.
right, that's fine. Sure, I should take them. Not that,
Is that Monopoly money?
no, it's
Then-
the certificates of mailing. It's the proof that it satisfies Kevin's concern that the neighbors were notified.
They can't complain if they don't show up. All right, next up, so next up, we have enforcement. I don't think we need to talk about 42 Pheasants Crossing again, because that's the first enforcement.
Right.
Okay,
right,
good.
Right.
Do we have updates on any of these enforcements, Mark?
So.
Thank you very much.
No, there, other than, I sent you, sorry, where's my, let me look. Agenda.
So MassDOT,
MassDOT, no update. He did reach out to me before Christmas, and I reached out back beginning of this year, but I haven't heard anything, so. He did ask, he said there was some work that's gonna be done on Route 20, do you want an NOI or an RDA? And I said, if it's in buffer, we want an RDA, if it's in resource area, we want an NOI, and that's how I left it.
I feel like I want an act of Congress before I have to let MassDOT do any work in the town of West
No, I
Springfield ever
agree,
again.
yeah. Yes. And then 115, they weren't thrilled with my comments, but those are my comments to you. I sent you all an email.
Yeah, they asked for the continuation. I'm not consulting on their project. That's not what we're here for. They can bring us a solution and we can vote on it. But I'm not gonna give my opinion out. That's what consultants are here for. All right, what about Somerset?
Somerset, again, they asked for continuance. There wasn't any resolution there. But it's stable. We had talked about that in the last one.
Okay,
And then Interstate, I'm meeting them Monday to look at a possible mitigation offsite. Although I keep saying I think the commission wants it on-site, but I don't know that that's true.
well, once again, I'm not here to consult on their problem. I will vote on it
Okay.
and ask questions. They
I've
can
heard
bring solutions.
from a number of people, they'd rather it on the site, but,
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice, but if they have a different proposal, bring it.
What's offsite?
it's our land that we just bought. They want to look at it, so I'm looking at it with them on Monday, but that's
Prospect Hill there.
Prospect Hill. But, I mean, that's got a lot of work that has to be done. It potentially gets Kevin his grassland, but,
Look, I'm open-minded. I'll take anything they want to give us that
but.
fits the
th-
bill,
they
but
aren't
you
gonna
gotta
wanna
bring
do-
it.
They aren't gonna want to do everything that we're planning to do on that site.
No, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
they gotta make, it's gotta be equivalent to the issue.
And then, Front Street?
Front Street,
So I talked to their consultant, and they are trying, they got into this whole thing because they think that they were gonna go to the Army Corps, but they jumped the process from us and went directly to the Army Corps. So I think that, I said to them, bring us a delineation. So they've got something. They're gonna come in for our next meeting, they said.
okay, that's good. And we got a COC, yeah, well, we're not gonna do Interstate Drive until they resolve their
Correct.
other issues. What about the Foley portion of the Bernie Ave project?
So they applied, the Foley's through Mickey Marcus had applied, and then the town had applied back in '21 for certificate of compliance. And then we found that the Foley's didn't record the order or the town. Nobody recorded it against the Foley's property, and there was some dispute of whether they would record it, and the attorney didn't want to record it. But since they've changed their mind because they wanted to be able to maintain the repairs that they did, so by us issuing a certificate of compliance with the right to maintain, they'll be able to maintain it. So that's what they, so I have a prepared signature page for you if you vote to issue. You'd already issued it for the town portion, so I would say just wrap it all in one, because it's all gonna get, the town's gonna record the both, the original order and the certificate.
Okay. Commissioners, any issues? So then we need a motion?
Yeah, just motion to issue a certificate
So
of
I'd be
compliance
looking for a motion to issue a COC for 3300355,
with the continuing conditions.
of course.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 3300355 with the continuing conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Okay, great, let's get some signatures.
All right, our last piece of business. It is our first meeting of 2023. We need to have our election of officers, chair, vice chair, secretary, and annual calendar adoption.
And CPA, yeah.
You guys want to nominate me to keep this thing going? I'm happy to keep doing it.
I nominate Kevin Cote for chair.
I
Yeah.
second it.
Oh, Will, is that
Go ahead.
A nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Vice chair is only if you want somebody to fill in, so.
I think we
Someone
should have a
gets
vice chair.
assassinated, then the vice
That's
chair.
right. When they get sick and tired of me and get rid of me, somebody else needs to step into the chair.
I vote John Goddard as vice chair.
I
We-
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Am I supposed to vote for
We
myself?
need four votes, John, so you
Yeah,
could,
vote
you
for
could
yourself.
tank this thing.
I'll play ball. Aye.
All right. John is vice chair.
There's an option coming up where I can.
Can you be vice chair and secretary?
No, but guess what?
Well, the secretary,
hey,
I mean, it doesn't really do anything. All I would like to do with the secretary, because Dina liked to look over the minutes, so whoever likes to look over the minutes, you all have that
Melissa's good at that.
responsibility.
So, hey, you know what? When you don't show up to the meeting, you get nominated
It's
for stuff.
Melissa.
I nominate Melissa for secretary.
There you go.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I hope she's watching right now.
She said, I'm not taking any answers.
All right.
And then I sent out the annual calendar. Was there any issues?
No, look good.
So you just adopted?
I did look over it. I didn't see any typos or errors or anything.
No, or timing issues.
Same thing, second and fourth, right? Every month.
Yeah, second, fourth. I did, this year, I took off the time I'm gonna be away so that you wouldn't even have to meet.
Works for me.
Well, every year it's in there, you don't have to have me here to meet, but you somehow don't do it.
All right. We met once this year when you weren't around.
I'm pretty sure we did.
No,
Yes, we did.
I don't think so.
We did.
At least once.
We did. We had one meeting when you weren't
Maybe
around.
a site visit. I don't
No,
think
we had a meeting. You weren't here.
I don't think
I
so.
swear we did. Because
I
I was
I
like,
think you're
remember
I was like, what-
pre-COVID.
I actually remember.
where
it.
do we get these name tags? I don't know where, like, Mark's not here. I don't know what to do.
I remember that.
Because someone came in for something and we didn't want to push them off because you weren't around. And so we met.
Oh, it's
We did.
possible.
We can function
I
without you,
think it
Mark.
was pre-COVID.
Not that we like it, but. All right, CPA representative.
So, I talked to both Andy, who's not with us, and Melissa, who's not with us, and they both agreed to share the position. The planning board has a shared, like a representative and an alternate. Andy's concern is his sons play baseball in the spring, so this would relieve Mr. Hanush from having to go. He's served us faithfully, and
I
Commissioner
can keep
Henson
it
would.
if they want to alternate too. That's all.
Hmm?
I can keep it if they want to alternate, like.
Well, I need
or-
probably
unless they
two-
agreed to it, then give it to them.
Andy seemed okay with it. I mean, we can make Melissa the primary, and
Melissa was on it before, wasn't she?
She was, yeah, and she appreciated
willing
that
to go
Danny
back?
took it off her hands, because she couldn't do it at that time. But now Danny suffered for 2 years or 3 years.
It's not bad. I didn't mind it. It's just
She said you want it
I
off,
have little
so.
kids and I want to spend
Right,
time
you want
with
to
them.
spend time with your kids.
That I understand.
That's,
It's One,
Right.
one board position is enough.
So I would say, in talking about to Andy and Melissa, they can work it out if you're okay with it.
Okay. Well, I am happy to nominate Melissa and Andy for our CPA reps.
All right, I'll write a letter to them saying.
Okay. We don't have to vote on that, right?
Yeah, you have to vote on it.
When does that start? Oh, yeah, there's a motion. I guess we got
It'll
a
start at the
second.
next meeting.
Thank you, Danny. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. We just voted them to rep us
It's
on
The
the
starts
next
now.
CPA.
meeting. So
Next meeting.
effective now.
The 14th, you were trying to blow me off. I need to file something for the 14th, so.
Oh, I told him I can't. Valentine's Day, my wife.
Well, you're not gonna have to now.
Yeah.
You're not the rep.
Who's thinking scheduling that?
You're off the hook.
They asked at the meeting last night, "Does anyone mind?" I was like, "Yeah." I do not have to be here.
Well,
for
now they don't have to
Valentine's
worry about it. It's either gonna be Melissa or Andy going. Because I need them to meet.
Oh, really? They asked. They said somebody said we should just skip it.
All right, now our last thing on this piece of business was subcommittee establishment for the Conservation Land Management Committee.
So John did it with Dina before, and, we can leave it that way. I haven't done anything with it, so at some point.
I don't believe I've attended any.
We didn't do anything. We talked about it, but we didn't do anything.
Let's hope for another year of that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with
Works for me.
Okay,
No change needed.
no change. Any other things that anybody wants committees for?
Not this time.
Good.
All right, I think that is our meeting. All right, we'll call it here at 7:08. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Judy saved the world.